Listen. Ladies, let me tell you something. A man can say a lot of things. We're good with words. We know how to sound confident, smooth, charming. Oh, we got that part down. But when a man is emotionally tied to you, when he is truly invested in you, he don't just talk different. He ACTS different. See, love is easy. Anybody can fall in love. But emotional addiction, that's when you become the woman he thinks about when he wakes up, the woman he checks on, the woman he don't want to lose. If a man does this one thing, he chooses you every single day, even when it's not convenient, then trust me, he's emotionally addicted to you. It's not the good times that tell you. It's what he does when things get tough. When he still shows up, when he still listens, when he still protects your peace, that's when a man is hooked on you deeper than he expected. A man who is emotionally addicted to you will make space for you in his world, not excuses, not I'm busy, not maybe later. He'll give you energy because you matter. He'll give you presence because he cares. And he'll give you consistency because you're not temporary to him. So remember this, when a man's heart is invested, his habits change, his priorities change, and his love stops being something he feels. It becomes something he proves. That's emotional addiction. That's commitment. That's a man who sees you as his peace, his partner, and his future. Consistency is the number one sign that a man is emotionally attached to you. And this goes way beyond calling every day or sending good morning texts. Real consistency is a reflection of commitment, emotional investment, and the desire to build something lasting. A man who is emotionally addicted to you doesn't show up only when he feels like it. He shows up because he wants you to feel secure. His actions are not random or based on mood swings. They are steady, predictable, and reassuring. He becomes a source of stability in your life, not confusion. Most men can be charming for a week. They can behave perfectly for a month. They can pretend for a little while. But the truth always shows through time, and consistency is the one thing you can't fake. When a man's emotions are deeply connected to you, he naturally becomes consistent because you occupy space in his mind even when you're not around. You live in his decisions, his priorities, and his schedule without him feeling forced. He doesn't try to be consistent, he just is, because losing you would cost him something emotionally. Consistency looks like him communicating even on his busiest days, not with long, poetic paragraphs, but with simple, steady effort. It looks like him checking on you not because he has to, but because he genuinely wants to know how your day is going. He asks about your feelings, not as small talk, but because your emotional state matters to him. When he makes plans, he doesn't break them. When he says he'll call, he calls. When he promises something, he follows through. His reliability becomes something you can trust. A man who is emotionally tied to you doesn't disappear when things get stressful. Instead, he becomes even more present because you're part of his emotional support system. You matter to him. You are his peace, his comfort, and his anchor. Even if he's overwhelmed, you don't find yourself guessing whether he's still interested. He makes sure you never feel like an option or an afterthought. His consistency becomes the language he uses to show his feelings. There's a big difference between a man who likes you today and forgets you tomorrow and a man who has built a connection so deep that your absence feels like a missing piece. Emotional addiction makes him protective of the relationship. He avoids playing games, avoids pushing you away, and avoids anything that might make you question him. Instead, he puts effort into making you feel wanted and valued. He repeats the small acts of love that build emotional security, remembering details, noticing when something is wrong, making time even on hard days, and going out of his way to keep communication open. Consistency also shows in the way he adjusts to your needs. If he knows you feel more secure with reassurance, he gives it. If you need quality time, he makes space for it. If something bothers you, he listens and adapts. Emotional investment makes him want to grow with you instead of running from conflict. He doesn't vanish during misunderstandings or shut down when conversations get uncomfortable. Instead, he stays, listens, and works through it because the connection means too much to risk losing. In every stage of the relationship, his behavior stays aligned with his feelings. He doesn't chase you intensely for a few weeks and then become distant. He doesn't treat you like a priority only when it benefits him. His consistency creates emotional safety, and emotional safety deepens the bond. You find yourself trusting him not because he gave you big promises, but because his daily actions quietly prove that he is committed. When a man is emotionally addicted to you, his consistency becomes his love language. It's his way of saying, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, you matter to me. And that level of steady effort is the clearest, strongest sign of emotional attachment you'll ever see. When a man is emotionally invested in you, one of the clearest signs is how deeply he cares about your peace. This isn't about him trying to impress you, and it isn't about him putting on a show. It comes from a genuine place inside him where he feels responsible for your emotional comfort. Protecting your peace means he becomes more aware of his words, his actions, and the effect he has on your heart. He doesn't want to be the reason you lose sleep, overthink, or doubt your worth. When a man is emotionally tied to you, your happiness becomes connected to his own, and he instinctively avoids doing anything that could disturb your emotional balance. Men usually grow up being taught to hide their emotions or move through life focusing mainly on themselves. So when a man starts thinking about how his behavior affects your emotional state, that shift doesn't happen casually. It means you've reached a place inside him that not many people get to. He becomes more thoughtful in the way he communicates, and he pays attention to small details, your tone, your expressions, your energy, because he wants to understand what keeps you calm and what triggers stress. And once he notices these things, he quietly adjusts his behavior to protect your peace. He'll avoid unnecessary arguments, not because he's scared of conflict, but because he values the relationship more than being right. He won't bring chaos into your life, and he won't drag you into drama. Instead, he chooses softness where others might choose harshness, and patience where others might choose stubbornness. If he knows something bothers you, he doesn't do it again. If he realizes he hurt you unintentionally, he takes it seriously and corrects it. That's because emotional attachment makes him care about the impact he has on you. Protecting your peace also shows in the way he speaks to you. His tone shifts, his approach becomes gentle, even when dealing with difficult topics. He stops using words as weapons and starts using them for clarity, reassurance, and connection. A man who is emotionally addicted to you becomes intentional. He thinks before he reacts. He tries to calm situations rather than ignite them. He puts effort into communicating honestly and respectfully because the last thing he wants is to damage the bond you share. He also becomes protective of the environment around you. If someone disrespects you, he stands up for you. If someone talks badly about you, he shuts it down. If you are surrounded by stress, negativity, or people who drain your energy, he encourages you to distance yourself from them. Not because he wants to control your life, but because he genuinely wants you to feel safe, supported, and emotionally secure. Your well-being matters to him at a level that becomes part of his daily awareness. A man who values your peace also becomes mindful of what he brings into your life, his habits, his issues, his stress. He tries not to unload everything on you or let his problems create tension. Instead, he works on himself, manages his emotions, and tries to show up in a mature and stable way. He wants to be a source of comfort, not confusion, a place of shelter, not turbulence. And in your hardest moments, he becomes a calming presence. He listens without judging, supports without pressuring, and stands by you without disappearing when things get tough. He never makes you feel like your emotions are too much or your feelings are inconvenient. He creates space for you to express yourself freely and safely because your emotional world matters to him. When a man works to protect your peace, it shows that his connection to you isn't casual. It means you affect him deeply. It means he cares about the state of your heart. And it means he is emotionally attached in a way that makes him want to be a positive force in your life rather than another source of stress. When a man is emotionally attached to you, one of the strongest signs you'll see is that he makes time for you instead of giving excuses. Time is the one thing everyone values, protects, and guards closely, especially men. Men don't easily rearrange their routines or break their patterns unless something or someone matters deeply to them. So when a man chooses to create space for you in his day, no matter how busy, tired, or overwhelmed he is, that's not accidental. That's emotional investment showing itself through his behavior. A man can be interested without being intentional, but he cannot be emotionally attached without effort. Effort is the language of emotional investment. It's not about how many hours he spends with you. It's about the choices he makes. If a man wants you in his life, he finds a way. If he doesn't, he finds an excuse. And a man who is emotionally invested won't let excuses replace effort. He won't hide behind, "I forgot," "I was busy," or "maybe later." Instead, he consistently shows you through his actions that you matter enough for him to prioritize. This type of man becomes more mindful of how he uses his time. Even on days filled with responsibilities, he still checks in, sends a quick message, or calls just to hear your voice. Not because he is forced to, but because staying connected to you feels natural to him. He doesn't want you to feel neglected or left guessing about his feelings. Your emotional security becomes important to him, and he knows consistency is the key to building trust. When a man chooses you, you don't have to beg for his presence. You don't have to chase after his attention. You don't have to ask him to show up because he will show up on his own. He will make plans and commit to them, not cancel at the last minute. He will find ways to include you in his life, whether that means seeing you in person, making quality time for you, or simply staying in steady communication when physical presence isn't possible. Even during stressful periods, he won't disappear. A man who is emotionally attached doesn't withdraw when life becomes difficult. Instead, he stays connected. He keeps you close, even if life is pulling him in multiple directions. You don't see days of silence. You don't get left wondering if he's lost interest. He puts effort into keeping the relationship stable because losing you would affect him emotionally. This kind of man also learns to balance his world around you. He doesn't treat you like an interruption to his life. He makes you a part of it. You see it when he adjusts his schedule, finds time after work, chooses to call before bed, or checks in during breaks. These small acts show he values the connection, and they add up to something meaningful. He doesn't view giving time as a burden. He sees it as something he wants to do because being close to you brings him peace, joy, and emotional fulfillment. A man who is emotionally invested also remembers your needs and rhythms. He knows when you feel lonely, when you need reassurance, or when you simply want his presence. He doesn't brush those needs aside. Instead, he responds with understanding and effort. He makes room in his heart, in his schedule, and in his mind for the relationship to grow. Making time is a conscious choice, not an accident. It's a reflection of a man's priorities, his intentions, and his emotional connection. A man who is deeply attached doesn't want you to feel like an option or a side thought. He wants you to feel included. He puts effort into making you feel important because you truly are important to him. When a man stops making excuses and starts making time, he is showing you with actions, not words, that your presence in his life is not temporary. You become someone he chooses again and again, not out of obligation, but out of genuine emotional attachment. When a man is emotionally attached to you, one of the clearest signs is the way he naturally begins to include you in his future. This shift happens quietly, often before he openly admits how deeply he feels. Men don't talk about the future with someone they see as temporary. They don't open that door unless their heart has already decided that you're someone they want to build with. When his emotional connection grows stronger, his vision of the future begins to stretch farther, and you start appearing in that picture without him even realizing it at first. It starts with small comments. He might casually mention places he wants to travel and say, "We should go there." He may talk about future goals, career plans, lifestyle dreams, personal growth, and include you in the conversation as if it's obvious that you will be there beside him. These aren't empty words. Men don't say we unless they feel it. The shift from me to we is an emotional milestone. It shows that he sees you as part of the life he's building, not a temporary chapter. As the connection deepens, he becomes more intentional. He begins to think about how his choices and plans will affect both of you. He considers your needs, your dreams, and your comfort when making decisions. Even simple choices like where he wants to live, what kind of work he wants to pursue, or how he wants to spend upcoming holidays start to revolve around the idea of growing together rather than separately. This level of emotional merging doesn't come from casual affection. It comes from genuine emotional attachment. A man who sees a future with you also becomes more transparent. He opens up about things he may not usually share: his long-term fears, his insecurities, his ambitions, and his idea of a meaningful life. Emotional attachment gives him confidence that you're not just someone he's dating, you're someone he can share his dreams with. He wants you to know him deeply because building a future requires emotional closeness, not surface-level connection. You'll notice that he starts making plans that extend beyond the present moment. He talks about months and years ahead. He brings up things like where he'd want to settle, what type of lifestyle he envisions, and what he hopes to achieve. He asks about your dreams, not as small talk, but because he wants to understand how your futures can align. He listens carefully when you talk about what you want in life, because he's not just hearing you, he's imagining how he fits into that picture. Including you in his future also shows up in the way he makes long-term commitments. He might suggest saving together for something meaningful, planning a major trip, or working toward shared goals. He may start discussing things like financial stability, career paths, or personal development in the context of both of you. These conversations aren't random. They come from a place of emotional clarity. He doesn't just want you now, he wants you later too. Even deeper, he starts envisioning emotional stability with you. He sees you as a partner he can rely on, someone who brings balance and meaning to his life. He begins to recognize that the future he wants isn't just about achieving things, it's about who he achieves them with. He starts imagining what life would feel like, waking up next to you every day, building a home together, sharing responsibilities, supporting each other through challenges, and growing through every season of life. These inner visions guide his actions, making him more committed, more consistent, and more emotionally present. He also becomes protective of the relationship's longevity. He avoids decisions that could harm your bond and prefers solutions that strengthen it. He makes room for you in his world, not by sacrificing who he is, but by expanding what his future can hold. You become part of his motivation, part of his plans, and part of his long-term happiness. When a man includes you in his future, it's not about talk, it's about the emotional shift behind the talk. It means he's attached to you on a deeper level, the level where his heart feels safe enough to imagine forever, and his mind feels secure enough to plan for it. That is emotional connection in its most genuine form. When a man is emotionally attached to you, one of the strongest signs is that his actions consistently speak louder than his words. Words are easy. Anyone can say the right thing in the moment. Anyone can claim they care, promise effort, or talk about how much you mean to them. But actions require intention. They require emotional investment. They require choosing you even when life becomes challenging, inconvenient, or stressful. When a man proves his feelings through what he does rather than what he says, that is when you know his attachment is real and deep. A man who's emotionally addicted to you doesn't rely on sweet talk to keep you close. He understands that real connection is built through showing up, through effort, through behavior that matches every promise he makes. He knows that love isn't meant to be performed, it's meant to be demonstrated. So if he says he cares about you, you'll see it in his consistency. If he says he'll be there, you won't have to wonder whether he will show up. His actions become the steady language through which his heart expresses itself. You will notice this in the small things first. He pays attention to details, what makes you smile, what frustrates you, what scares you, what brings you comfort. He learns the things that matter to you and remembers them not because he has to, but because you matter to him. He listens when you speak and shows that he understands by adjusting his behavior. If something hurts you, he works to avoid it next time. If something makes you feel loved, he leans into it. He doesn't need reminders. His actions reflect your value in his life. When a man's feelings are sincere, he doesn't leave you questioning where you stand. He doesn't go silent after disagreements. He doesn't pull away when emotions get intense. Instead, he communicates, even when it's hard. He tries to resolve misunderstandings rather than letting them grow. His love becomes visible in his willingness to do the hard, uncomfortable, emotional work required to keep the relationship healthy. He doesn't disappear when things get complicated. Instead, he remains present because your connection matters too much to risk losing. His actions also reflect emotional responsibility. He doesn't just avoid hurting you. He actively chooses behaviors that make you feel safe and valued. He follows through on commitments, keeps his word, and doesn't make promises he can't keep. When he says he'll call, he calls. When he says he'll meet you, he shows up on time. When he tells you he'll change something, he genuinely tries. This level of effort comes from emotional depth. It means your presence in his life is important enough for him to show up as the best version of himself. You'll see his love in moments when no one is watching. The private gestures, the gentle check-ins, the thoughtful messages, the quiet support. These are the things a man does when his connection to you is genuine. He cares about your emotional state and your well-being. He invests time, energy, attention, and presence. None of this feels like a burden to him because caring for you is something he chooses freely and wholeheartedly. And when life gets stressful, his actions become even more revealing. A man who is emotionally attached doesn't let distance, pressure, or challenges weaken the connection. Instead, he becomes more intentional, he communicates more, he reassures more. He makes sure you feel secure even when his own life feels chaotic. That emotional reliability is one of the strongest signs of attachment. It shows that he doesn't love you only when it's easy. He loves you through difficulties too. Over time, his actions start forming a pattern of commitment, loyalty, and emotional presence. You see effort without being asked. You feel valued without having to demand it. You experience consistency without having to chase it. This is what emotional attachment looks like in its purest form. A man who proves his love through actions is a man whose heart is genuinely involved. He shows you day after day that you matter not through words, but through everything he does.